Hey folks, welcome to the show. Hey Sharad, I'll ask the typical question I always ask. How's it going, man? How are you?
It's going all right, and I'll also give you like the boilerplate response that I'm excited about another
Not
business.
no, not too bad. And then yeah,
Not too bad, and I'm excited about yet another business. Slightly interesting and different in the sense that we've talked about fintechs and gold loans, and we've looked at some form of precious metal with investing married to it or savings. We've looked at it from different standpoints, but this is somewhat unique, so I'm excited about it.
yeah, absolutely. We have with us Veer Mishra, who runs Plus or Get Plus. I don't know how you like to formally call it. Plus is fine.
Just call it plus, yeah.
Yeah, so Plus is a fintech and in the space of jewelry savings, which enables its users to save for investing and buying jewelry. I found it very interesting because it's a very specific use case, and I think the broad idea I got of based on the website and the platform was I put in my money in Plus. I make some sort of return, and you have partner jewelers from whom I can deploy that capital and get preferred exclusive deals. Why this focused kind of a use case?
So I think thanks, Nikhil and Sharad, for having me here. Right. I think I mean, like the story of starting Plus is quite funny, right? My fiance, now my wife, right, used to save monthly with a jeweler, right, that she trusts in Bangalore. She used to go there every month, deposit $5,000 and come back. And there was a specific time window where she had to go every month, right? And this one fine day, she's like, yeah, I'm facing new challenges. Like, I don't usually get time. Office hota hai, weekend specific time milta hai. And, going there every month becomes a challenge. Isn't there a technology that can solve this?
Right.
Right. And then, I asked her, why are you just saving with one jeweler? You can probably save in an FD or a bank account or maybe some other asset, right? Her point to my interest was because unlike anyone else, right, the homemakers or the women of the family, they always have a specific goal defined, right? They know that, like, for example, if it's Akshaya Tritiya or if it's Diwali, they have certain defined goals कि मुझे इतना ग्राम सोना खरीदना है इस साल में.
Got it.
Right? And they always consider this gold as their asset, right? Because there's no other financial asset that women trust into more than real estate and gold, right? And and she had a similar plan. She was saving for our wedding, right? And the problem that I realized was when she was saving and during our wedding when we went to that jewelry store, and I was not convinced with the designs, and but eventually we had to settle.
So when you say she was saving with a specific jeweler, so there was some sort of a yield that the jeweler was promising.
Yeah, so India ke jitne bhi jewelers hai, right? They run a saving scheme,
Okay.
which is usually a 10+1.
Clearly, me and Sharad have no idea about this, so that's why we are asking such brilliant questions. But yes,
So these saving schemes are usually called 10+1 schemes,
right.
right? So what happens is a user goes to these jewelers for 10 months and deposits a certain amount.
Right.
The 11th month installment is something that is added by the jeweler to the sum of capital that you have deposited. Right. So if you're saving 5,000 a month, you've saved 50,000 and 5,000 jeweler ne add kar diya.
Okay.
So now you can buy the jewelry worth of 55,000, which is essentially a discount on the making charge that he has.
Right.
Right. वो 7-8% का making charge आपके लिए minus कर देगा.
Right.
So now, here, the problem that we faced was कि एक तो मुझे design पसंद नहीं आई, but I had no option other than just buying from that jeweler.
Tied arrangement.
Right. So I had to buy the gold. I cannot withdraw it. Right, which means if I want a refund, I don't have an option. Right, some of the bigger brands, the huge ones, right? They even say that if you pay for 6 months and if you miss even one installment, the entire money that you saved is gone.
And I imagine this is all cash, right?
Yeah. In some cases, yes. In 70% of the cases in an unorganized market, yes, it is cash. But with respect to the publicly listed jewelers, the bigger ones, right? If we talk about the Tanishq of the world and the Kalyans of the world, everything is in white, right? So they have to disclose this, right? Because this comes under the Deposit Act, right, of 2014. So, because these were the problems that Shivani was facing. Me and Raj, right, both of us were working at this company called Better Place in Bangalore, right? Here, we were tasked to create a fintech for blue collar workforce, right? But this opportunity seemed much bigger, right? So we started researching on this and realized that India mein har saal almost 1.2 lakh crore worth of gold or jewelry is sold through these schemes from all the jewelers, right? So it was a massive behavior. And the biggest surprise was an annual income of 2 to 10 lakh. Wali family was constituting more than 73% of this amount, right? So that's a very huge, what you can say, identifier. Ki middle class India, the Bharat, right, of the country, right, believes in these schemes and they believe in gold as an asset.
Interesting. And from a jeweler standpoint, if you're doing a 10+1, you're essentially offering 10% return for the investor, right? Plus, but you're securing an order as well. So you're getting additional margin on the goods sold as well, right? So it makes sense. Now, this is very interesting. I didn't even know about this. So this is quite fascinating. Now, when you sort of talked about that it's tied to one jeweler, right? So there's a 1-to-1, but you want to sort of diversify it. How does that work in the sense that you still have to go to one person to buy the actual jewelry, right? But let's say you've parked your money in three different guys, three different places. Can you pool that capital typically, or is that sort of nahi, jis jeweler ke sath hai, wahi se aapko, with that principal amount, you can sort of close a transaction?
Yes. So, with respect to generally the way scheme works is you can only save with one jeweler, right? Yeah. And if you want to have option, you save with multiple jewelers, right? What we saw was an aggregation opportunity that what if we actually create a single aggregation point where we say you save with us, right? We give you the same discounts, we give you the same benefits, but with the flexibility that if you want to withdraw, you can withdraw. If you want to buy from any of the jewelers that we have partnered with, right, go to any of the jeweler, get the same discount, right? And that is how the journey eventually started, right? Where we thought, just like a founder, we thought that fintech sabse best hai, right? Let's introduce financial assets that gives better returns, and let's start targeting the customers. So thus, initially when the people were saving on our app, right, the money was pulled in for to an NBFC, right, who was generating this return, right? And now, what we have learned is, people have in last 4 months itself, people have saved more than 60 lakhs on the app, right? But in these early days also, we realized that people want to save for jewelry, but unko gold mein save karna. They don't want to give money to any other NBFC or anyone, right? So now, we are adding gold as an asset, right, which will be a real gold kept in a vault for the user, right? And he can get it delivered wherever he want, or he can keep it with us and get interest on it, right? So getting interest on gold is quite interesting for people. So yeah.
And who bears the burden of quality checks on the metal, on the asset, like in terms of purity of gold? Is that something? Is that your responsibility typically?
Yes, so it's our responsibility, and at the same time, the bullion providers that are enabling this gold, right, are regulated and audited by government. Right, the vaults where the gold is kept is also regulated by the RBI and the government, right? So everything that's happening, right, have a security check and has a compliance check from the government itself, right? They are BIS certified gold, right? This has a 24 karat purity, right? And you can cash in whenever you want.
And is what's in this for the jeweler in this arrangement? Is it that, earlier, I guess, the jeweler was baking in a discount, and that discount was coming in as a return to the investor or the buyer. So effectively, the jeweler's margin was being somewhat hit. Now, is the margin unlock the play here for the jeweler?
Yeah. So earlier, the jewelers were running these schemes as a source of working capital for them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So this becomes a very cheap working capital, right? Market में if they take a credit, वो 14-15% का मिलेगा. यहाँ पे they'll just have to take a hit on the making charge, right? And they still make 8-10% even after giving the discount, right? So, that was the reason why jewelers were doing it. The reason now that jewelers are partnering with us is one of the biggest reason is now the current generation, which is under 40, they don't have a fixed jeweler in the mind, right? They go to a brand that feels and seems more trustable, right? And usually it's the bigger names like Tanishq, Kalyan, Malabar, and so on. And thus the other jewelers that have been there for legacy, 40 years, 50 years in the town, they are losing new customers, right? And the average age of the consumer at a particular store, right, is going beyond 50 years and 60 years because wo jo pehle kharid rahe the, wahi kharid rahe hain.
Yeah.
Right? No one else is buying. So now the jewelers are saying, "Ki, if I can get a digitally available audience through Plus, I am happy to give away that discount." Right? And so when a jeweler gets onboarded on Plus, he has two options. Either he can run his own scheme, right, jo abhi tak ke chala raha hai on Plus, right, or directly become a redemption partner, which means a user will come from Plus to the jeweler and he just have to enable discount.
Interesting. And I understand the use case here is to sort of the ultimate objective, whoever is sort of coming onto your platform on the buyer side, the ultimate objective is to buy jewelry, to close a transaction. And of course, you're offering additional flexibility that there is no lock-in period, you can withdraw. What else is there a thought of sort of encouraging that customer to look at additional asset classes as well? Because it sort of widens the volume of people who are looking to sort of aim at any targeted investment, right? I understand the gold use case and it's got massive cultural significance as well, right? In our country, it's not entirely financially driven. Are there other asset classes which also behave in a similar pattern? Because I'm thinking of it, right? We talked about 10+1, but a lot of these problems in sort of at some segment are also done by chit funds. Like people often look at chit funds with a similar mindset, right? To sort of do in and you get a bonus at the end and then people deploy towards buying a bike or a car or a washing, whatever it is, right? So what other asset classes do you think can be unlocked here with this psyche?
Sure. So it's a great story, to be honest. I'll tell you, when we started the company, our first product was called the Kitty Club, right? Yeah. Where we were trying to organize the kitty parties that happens. Yeah. Right. Kitty parties ki payment and a lot of things were there. But we realized that it's illegal, right? Mostly done in cash and an app like us won't work. Probably an app like Splitwise would have worked for a kitty party, right? But when it comes to gold, I think what we've realized is that when we replicate the behavior that is already existing in the market, which is a 10+1. So on Plus, when you buy a 10 gram, you get 1 gram free from us. And this is a literal 1 gram, right? That you get within a year, right? So when we are replicating that behavior, right, this audience doesn't really understand any other asset. Got it. Right? We tried with the P2P NBFC, right? That it's very difficult to explain. Right, the barrier to entry is a huge KYC that needs to be done, right? And this audience shies away from KYC. No one has access to their Aadhaar card right now, right? They are like, "Acha, wo mujhe apne pati se पूछना पड़ेगा," right? So we have seen our funnel was actually breaking a lot during KYC. A lot of people were signing up, exploring and creating a specific goal, right, on the app. But during the payment, they have to complete the KYC, and for KYC, the entire funnel was breaking. So what we realized is that it's better, we introduce a low KYC product, and gold is the least KYC asset that we can actually, introduce. When it comes to other asset, we may think of probably having ETFs or SGPs, again, built on gold, right, or silver. But any other asset becomes very tricky for this audience, actually.
Yeah, understood.
But is the journey that you have in mind long term, there are many companies which start with a very specific use case. For example, jar, it started with digital gold, right? But over time it is kind of evolving into a broader micro savings / investment type of a play. Is that even on the cards for you, or for you the current field is so large, like you said, 1.2 1.3 lakh crores, right, annual flows, so you would rather just go deeper and deeper into this segment over the next few years rather than experiment with other things.
Right. I think Jar as a platform, they're doing pretty great, right? Misbah, who's the founder, used to be my roommate in Delhi, right? And he's a great friend. Their market that they've captured and what they wanted to do, which was strike that savings behavior early on, right? And that TG is loving that, right? So that's why they're working well. But now they are becoming in a full tech fintech platform, as you mentioned, like they're going into insurance, microcredits, and so on, right? Whereas what we've realized that gold as an ecosystem and the jewelry as an ecosystem is so huge, right? There are multiple fintechs that can be created inside this infrastructure, right? For example, once the savings are there, we can start pawning, right? Gold pawning is a very massive behavior down south, starting from Telangana to AP to Kerala and Tamil Nadu everywhere, right? Yeah. And similarly, it's gold loans, right? Or gold exchange, right? So there's so many fintechs that can be created separately, and I think that's why the news will be out soon. In our current fundraise, we have partnered with few people who will help us set up these offline shops in these areas, right? Co-branded with Plus to enable these fintechs, right? Because this is the fintech that even a farmer understands. उसको पता है अब मैं किसी ठेकेदार से लोन लूंगा मुझे 25-30% लगेगा मेरे पास सोना है मैं सोना जाके 70% लोन ले लूंगा, right? So farmers have actually shifted from ठेकेदार्स to gold, right? And that is why the gold loan vertical is working pretty huge. So what we have realized is that this entire vertical of gold and jewelry is very huge, and building and a revenue channel here won't be a challenge, right? And the audience is already educated about it. It's just about how we position the brand.
And do you enable, I'm guessing that there must be some amount of logistics which are also needed to be baked in for a place such as yours, because if there's a redemption event, someone needs to actually supply the gold. I imagine, do you also get deposits in cash? Is that something that you have enabled? No. Is that an issue in adoption? Because I mean, the classic, especially the cohort that you were addressing initially, it sounded like more of a traditional household type of a framework. That's why I was wondering.
Yeah. So I think that is a behavior that we want to probably adapt to, right, or modify. What we want to do is in our initial days, at least for this year, right, see how people are responding to UPI. Okay. Right, on the app. Because let's say the maximum limit for UPI auto pay in single transaction is 15,000. Right. If you say 15,000 every day on an example, right, you end up buying 900 grams of gold in a year. Right. So that's a huge volume, and no one wants to buy that much gold. So I think and UPI penetration is very wide. Yeah. Right. So we want to capitalize on that initially, but yes, we have partnerships already that will enable us if we want to ever launch a cash collection option. We have 4 lakh micro ATMs partnered already, where we can enable cash collection. The customer can say कि हाँ मेरे नियरेस्ट ये शॉप है मैं यहाँ जाके अपना पैसा डिपॉजिट कर दूंगी ऐप पे रिफ्लेक्ट हो जाएगा, राइट? दैट कैन हैपन, बट अगेन विल फॉलो गवर्नमेंट गाइडलाइंस. 50,000 से ज्यादा का पैसा सेव नहीं होगा. इफ 50,000 के ज्यादा का है तो KYC होगा एंड ऑल.
Do you see this app as a sort of a marketplace as well for the current buyers of gold, the investors, if you will?
Yeah, it will be a marketplace
to sell their assets as well. Like right now, it's going towards putting in money through your platform and channelizing it with the ultimate purpose of buying gold. But can a existing holder of gold also put their money? Because I mean, gold is sort of not a depreciating asset as such, right? So there is a easy price discovery is not a big challenge. Yeah. So is that something you think about as well? Like people to sort of offload some of their gold assets and liquidate it to cash?
Yeah, I think that's a quite a great idea, right? We haven't thought of it yet, but as you mentioned it, when we probably think of gold pawning, right, that can definitely become an option, because we have, as I said, we have partnerships and logistics in place that can actually go and collect that gold if they want to probably put it on sale or keep it in a vault or something like that.
The only interesting challenge that will come up is soon it becomes like a trading platform. People will try to do it on a much regular basis by speculating on gold prices.
A good problem to solve, I think, that in that case.
It becomes highly speculative. And what I'm guessing, in your consumer base, customer base, I would assume it's super skewed towards women in terms of or is it sort of you're still seeing male, but action. I mean,
by proxy.
Our focus TG was always the women in the house, right? But many a times, she's the decision maker, not the buyer.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? It's usually the husband or the kid, right? So we have seen 30% direct women, and the remaining 70s may say another 20-30% influence men, right? Because of the women. The remaining were men, so it's a 60-40 split, right? But and I think the split was also because when we started, we thought ourselves as a fintech app. Right. We designed our app as a fintech app. So if you download our app right now, you will see all the fintech jazz, simple UI, tap here, get this experience and all. Right. Now we have realized that this audience doesn't really understand fintech. Right. ये ऑडियंस को जूलर वो जो एक पैम्फलेट देता है स्कीम का जिसमें टेबल एक्सप्लेन्ड होता है ना वही समझ में आता है राइट सो नाउ वी आर एक्चुअली क्रिएटिंग एन एक्सपीरियंस दैट इज दैट सिंपल that it's easier, just like holding a pamphlet, right? So that it becomes easier for them to understand. And that's why we are revamping the UX, diverting ourselves from positioning as a fintech than a savings app, right? Yeah. This is a jewelry savings app.
And is vernacular freedom a big aspect of the app, considering you're in the southern where languages and dialect change?
So majorly it's going to be major southern languages. Yeah. Starting from Telugu, Kannada, Tamil, Malayalam.
Okay.
Right, these 4 languages.
Makes sense. And, in terms of you're talking about your fundraise right now, sort of you're in the middle of it, what is the sort of immediate objective to broaden the offering? Is it sort of adding more and more jewelers onto the ecosystem and subsequently and parallelly more and more buyers or investors onto the platform? Is that sort of the near-term growth profile? I mean, and you need business development capital for that. Is that how you're thinking of it?
Yeah. So majorly, I think, even though tech has been a strong point for us, you need a lot of muscle, to build rapid iterations on tech, right? So we want to have some great tech engineers working with us, but at the same time, the app that is live right now is only live in 3 cities, which is Mumbai, Bangalore, and Udaipur, right? Mm-hmm. In next 20 days, we are expanding to 50 cities, right? So having 1 or 2 partners in each city is very important, right? So that is where a lot of efforts are actually going into to make sure that by the time we raise funds and in next 6 months after that, we're at least live in 100 or 200 cities, right? And that is the major, what you can say, goal or milestone that we have by the year end, that we're live pan-India, right? And working towards accelerating this growth primarily.
Yeah. And, another from a behavioral standpoint, what is the typical time span you are observing in terms of how many months they're willing to deploy capital before actually purchasing the decision? Because you give the example of 10+1, that's sort of a short term, less than 1 year. But some people even save up for, my daughter or son's wedding. They can be
5-year goals.
10-year goals as well. So how do you sort of manage that? Yeah.
So till now, in the app currently, the maximum you can save for is 5 years.
5 years.
Right? But to our surprise, no one has actually done that yet, right? Even if it's for the wedding, people are just saving for 12 months.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think it's also because people are used to that behavior of saving for 12 months, right? So people are quite familiar with that behavior. But I think once I think it also depends on the goal, right? So we are trying to A/B test multiple things. Where we may test out a father saving for the daughter's wedding, right? Where the plan can be for 5 years if he wants.
Yeah.
But as a regulated manner, we can keep the savings for 5 years.
Yeah. And, from a traditional business standpoint, I mean, your working capital challenges are not going to be there, right? I mean, you're getting so much capital upfront and recurring.
So, to the compliance angle, we never get this money in our account.
Yeah.
Right, we never get the access of this money in our account, but yes, we do make the commissions on it.
Yeah.
Right. So when the user pays the money is directly sent to the bullion provider. He mints the gold, and that gold is kept for the user to use whenever he wants. But we get our commission, right? Which we also convert into gold at times.
Okay.
So effectively, in terms of revenue model, you're looking at a take rate with regard to the bullion provider, and I imagine something on the merchant end as well.
Yeah. So it's between 2 to 3%.
Okay.
Usually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are kind of like a sourcing partner for them.
Yeah.
And then also on the other end, when the from a partner jeweler standpoint, also, I guess that's the second line.
Yeah.
And how does that
That is
work?
where also with jewelers, when the user is just going there for redemption,
Yeah.
right? Which means the user is not saving with the jeweler, but just going there for the redemption.
Mhm.
The benefit that the user gets is the benefit, right? We don't get anything in that.
Right.
But when the jeweler is hosting his scheme
Yes.
on our app,
Yes.
right, that is when we make a commission.
Right.
Right.
Can you give us some sense of like the partner network? I mean, both on the obviously on the supply end and also on the customer end, from a traction standpoint.
So right now we have partnered with more than 320 plus jewelers in these 3 cities itself, right? But in next 15 days, as we launch in 50 cities, right, we will have good set of jewelers also, some tier 1 jewelers also, right? Right now we already partnered with Aura, Melora, Giva, and few on, but some tier 1 names are also joining the board, right? So that's going to be there. In terms of traction, obviously we haven't marketed ourselves till now much, right? We have got around 26,000 plus downloads, right? Out of which 18,000 people signed up and so on, right? The people who completed the KYC, which was a blocker, was around 7,000. Right. So there was a drop from 18,000 to 7,000.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I consider the KYC users as my active user because it takes a while for everyone to convert, right? Everyone has their own journey. So, out of those users, around 62 lakhs odd of savings have been created on the app to date, right? By the end of this year, because it was just few early days, we haven't started performance marketing yet, right? Once we start our performance campaigns, our goal is in next 12 months, we'll reach an AUM of 100 crore.
When did you go live?
We went live in October.
Okay.
Yeah.
So early days.
Yeah.
And, just another thing is when people are buying gold, right? I mean, it's obviously the metal itself, but there is a design element to the jewelry as well, right?
Yeah.
Now that's almost like a advisory or a design service kind of. Is that something that you guys can explore in terms of not just curation, but also probably offering insights to jewelers saying listen, this is what is sort of we are seeing being transacted, or buyers are showing interest in that when we have, because you can show design pictures on the platform, right? On the app for the...
As a catalog, yes. As a platform, we can definitely show the catalog. But what we've seen, at least in the jewelry industry, right, the catalog business never really worked.
Okay.
Right? Like, for example, I'll give you an example. When Carrot Lane started, right, they were an online-only platform. It was till they realized that they have to go offline, their revenues never kicked in.
Yeah.
Right. And just like Carrot Lane, Kalyan also has a brand called Candier.
Okay.
Right. Candier, Kalyan does 7,000 crore a year, right? On offline stores. Candier does $1 million. That's it. That's 8 crore a year online. Right. And now Candier realized that. And after the sale of Carrot Lane, right, Candier has started 15 stores in last 6 months alone. And now their sales are jumping up. Right. Because they also realized that jewelry in India mein online biki nahi sakti.
Basically high AOV. So people want to go to the store and
people want to have that touch and feel. Right. Yeah. They want to see how it's looking in their neck and finger.
Right. Interesting. No, Veer, this was super fascinating. I think you've raised around $350,000 to date, and you're in the middle of another round. Wish you all the best, and we'd be definitely watching you from the sidelines for bigger and larger milestones. It was very fascinating to understand this ecosystem as a whole. This is Nikhil Arora with me. It's Shara Tupran signing off.